When you go silent, something profound happens in human relationships, especially romantic ones. Silence is not just the absence of words, it's a statement, a declaration, and sometimes a strategic move. It wields the power of mystery, a force that has been known to captivate the human mind for centuries. Mystery is intriguing, and its allure lies in its ability to create an endless loop of questions. When you suddenly step back and stop communicating, it disrupts the predictable flow of interaction, sparking curiosity and uncertainty in the person you're dealing with. This shift can often drive men to chase, to reconnect, to figure out what changed and why. Human beings are inherently curious creatures. When something that was once familiar and routine vanishes, it doesn't go unnoticed. It's the same reason why people instinctively check their pockets when they realize their phone is missing, or why they retrace their steps when they've lost something valuable. Silence, especially when unexpected, is like that missing piece. It plants a seed of curiosity that grows with every moment of your absence. For men who are often conditioned to be problem solvers, this absence becomes a puzzle they feel compelled to solve. In relationships, there's a certain rhythm, a pattern of calls, texts, gestures, and communication. This rhythm is reassuring. It represents stability and connection. When you remove yourself from that rhythm by going silent, it's like hitting the pause button on a song mid-chorus. The melody is left incomplete, and the listener can't help but wonder what comes next. For the man on the receiving end, this can be jarring. The sudden disruption forces him to confront the void left behind, and that void is what compels him to start chasing. But the power of mystery isn't just about the absence of words. It's about the questions that arise in that silence. Why did she stop talking to me? Did I do something wrong? What is she thinking? These questions loop in the mind, creating an internal dialogue that can be both unsettling and motivating. For many men, this introspection is not something they're used to encountering in their day-to-day lives, making it even more impactful. The mind doesn't like unanswered questions, and silence creates plenty of those. There's also an element of fear that creeps in when someone goes silent, fear of losing something valuable. Silence forces a person to evaluate what the relationship or connection means to them. Men often realize during these moments that they've perhaps taken the connection for granted. When someone is always there, always responding, always available, it's easy to overlook their importance. But the moment they pull away, their absence is felt deeply. It's like walking into a dark room where a light bulb has suddenly burned out. You don't appreciate the light until it's gone. Men in particular are wired to respond to challenges. There's something about the thrill of the unknown, the desire to conquer and understand, that ignites a pursuit. Silence becomes that challenge. It's not confrontational, but it's provocative. It invites a response, a reaction. Men find themselves compelled to chase because they feel like something important has slipped through their fingers, and then the natural instinct is to try to grasp it again. What makes silence so powerful is that it shifts the dynamic. If a relationship or connection was starting to feel one-sided, where you were the one initiating conversations or putting in the effort, going silent reverses that dynamic. Suddenly the ball is in their court, and they must decide how to respond. This shift not only puts you in a position of strength, but also forces them to confront their own feelings and behaviors. In many cases, men will interpret silence as a sign that you're prioritizing yourself, that you have the confidence to step back and focus on your own well-being. This can be incredibly attractive. Confidence, after all, is magnetic. It shows that you're not dependent on anyone else for your happiness, and that sense of independence can inspire admiration and respect. It makes them realize that they're not the center of your world, which paradoxically makes them want to be closer to you. Silence also leaves room for imagination, and imagination can be a powerful tool in relationships. When you're silent, the other person fills in the blanks with their own thoughts and scenarios. They might imagine you moving on, thriving without them, or simply being too busy to engage. These thoughts can trigger a sense of urgency, a need to reestablish their place in your life before it's too late. Ultimately, the power of mystery and absence is rooted in its ability to make people reflect and reassess. When you go silent, you're not just stepping back, you're creating a space for the other person to step forward. You're giving them the opportunity to show their true intentions and to decide how much they value your presence. It's a subtle but effective way to gain clarity, to see who's willing to make an effort and who's content to let the silence linger. Silence, when used intentionally, is not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about reclaiming your energy and allowing the other person to recognize the impact of your absence. It's a reminder that your presence is a gift, not a given. And in that reminder lies the power to inspire change, to reignite interest, and to shift the balance of any relationship. When silence enters a relationship, it creates a pause, an interruption in the usual pattern of communication. This pause can do something profound. It forces introspection. For the person on the receiving end of the silence, it becomes a moment to look inward and question their own actions, words, and feelings. In the case of men who may not always be as vocal about their emotions, this silence can serve as an unspoken invitation to reflect. They find themselves wondering why the silence occurred, and in that wondering, they begin to analyze themselves more deeply than they usually might. Silence has a way of amplifying the internal voice. Without the usual back and forth of conversation, a person is left to fill the quiet with their own thoughts. For a man who is used to a particular rhythm of communication, your silence disrupts the pattern, leaving him to confront the stillness. He starts to replay interactions, perhaps searching for where things might have gone wrong or what he might have said or done to provoke your withdrawal. This self-reflection, though often uncomfortable, can be a powerful tool for personal growth. It forces him to acknowledge behaviors he might otherwise ignore. Introspection is not always an easy process, especially for someone who is not accustomed to it. It can feel like holding up a mirror and being forced to examine oneself with unflinching honesty. For some men, this may mean confronting insecurities, past mistakes, or unspoken feelings. The absence of your voice creates space for their own thoughts to rise to the surface, and in that space they start to ask questions they might not have considered before. Did I take her for granted? How was I not listening when I should have been? What could I have done differently? What makes this period of introspection even more impactful is that it's driven by uncertainty. Silence is ambiguous. It doesn't provide immediate answers or explanations. It leaves room for interpretation. And in that room, a person is forced to wrestle with their own conscience. For a man who may not have given much thought to the relationship dynamics before, this becomes an opportunity to reevaluate what you mean to him and how he has treated you. In relationships, it's common for people to fall into routines, and sometimes those routines can breed complacency. When you step back and go silent, it disrupts that routine, acting as a wake-up call. It challenges the other person to reassess the relationship and their role in it. For many men, this means realizing the value of your presence and the significance of the connection you share. Silence has a way of highlighting what's missing, and in doing so, it often brings clarity to what truly matters. Introspection can also lead to a deeper understanding of emotions. Men are often conditioned to suppress or downplay their feelings, but silence has a way of breaking through those barriers. When faced with the absence of your voice, your laughter, your presence, they may begin to feel emotions they've been avoiding or ignoring. These emotions, whether they're regret, longing, or even fear, can be powerful motivators for change. They make him realize the impact you have on his life and how much he values the connection you share. This process of self-reflection isn't just about understanding the past, it's also about envisioning the future. In the silence, a man might find himself thinking about what he wants moving forward. Does he want to reach out and mend the relationship? Does he want to work on himself to become a better partner? These questions are the seeds of growth, planted in the stillness you've created. Without the distraction of constant communication, he has the chance to focus on what truly matters. The beauty of silence is that it allows both people to gain perspective. While he is reflecting on his actions and feelings, you also have the opportunity to focus on yourself, your needs, and your boundaries. This mutual introspection can lead to a more balanced and meaningful connection if and when communication resumes. It ensures that any future interactions are grounded in greater self-awareness and respect. However, it's important to note that introspection doesn't guarantee immediate or visible results. Growth is a gradual process, and not everyone is willing or able to face their own shortcomings. Some men might resist the introspection that silence invites, preferring to avoid the discomfort it brings. But for those who are willing to engage with their thoughts and emotions, the experience can be transformative. It allows them to see the relationship and themselves in a new light. In the end, silence is not just about stepping back, it's about creating a space for growth, understanding, and change. It's about giving the other person the chance to reflect, to learn, and to decide what they truly want. Introspection is a powerful tool, and when used intentionally, it can lead to deeper connections and stronger relationships. When a man feels the silence after you've gone quiet, one of the most profound reactions he might experience is the stirring of emotions he may have buried or ignored. This emotional impact often comes as a surprise, even to him. It's in these moments of stillness, when your usual presence or communication is absent, that the reality of his feelings becomes undeniable. Silence has a way of amplifying the emotional void, creating a heightened awareness of the relationship and its significance. At first, this emotional reaction might manifest as confusion. He might ask himself why your silence bothers him so much. After all, relationships often go through periods of less communication. But the difference here is the intentionality behind your withdrawal. This is not the silence of mere busyness or circumstance. It's the kind of silence that communicates volumes without uttering a single word. It's deliberate, and because of that, it feels louder and more impactful than anything else. As time progresses, confusion often gives way to a sense of longing. He starts to miss the sound of your voice, the exchange of messages, and the small, everyday interactions that once felt routine but now seem invaluable. This longing is more than just missing someone's presence. It's the realization of how much those interactions meant to him. He might find himself reminiscing about specific conversations, moments of laughter, or times when your support was a pillar for him. These memories become a constant reminder of what is now absent, triggering a deep sense of emotional yearning. This emotional void can also lead to feelings of regret. In the silence, he has the space to reflect on the times he might have taken you for granted. He begins to analyze his own behavior, what he said or didn't say, what he did or failed to do, and this self-awareness often brings with it a sense of guilt. Perhaps he recalls instances when he dismissed your feelings, failed to prioritize you, or overlooked the effort you put into the relationship. Regret is a powerful emotion, and it has the capacity to inspire change. It's in these moments of introspection that he may start to realize just how much he values you and how his actions or lack thereof may have contributed to your decision to go silent. As these emotions build, a sense of urgency often takes hold. The longer the silence stretches on, the more pronounced his emotional response becomes. This urgency is fueled by the fear of losing you entirely. Silence has a way of making people confront their worst fears, and for him, the idea that your absence might become permanent can be incredibly unsettling. It's in this heightened emotional state that he starts to think about what he needs to do to bridge the gap. The question becomes not just whether he should reach out, but how he should do so in a way that acknowledges the depth of the situation. This emotional impact isn't limited to regret and longing. It also often stirs a profound sense of appreciation. In the quiet moments of reflection, he begins to recognize all the little things you brought into his life, things that might have gone unnoticed before. Your presence, your kindness, your unwavering support, these elements of the relationship take on a new level of importance. He starts to see you not just as a partner or a friend, but as someone who added immense value to his life, someone whose absence is deeply felt. What's important to understand here is that these emotions, while deeply personal, are also transformative. They create a foundation for growth and change. For some men, this emotional impact becomes the catalyst for a deeper understanding of themselves and their priorities. They begin to realize that the connection they had with you is not something they want to lose. This realization often leads to action, whether it's reaching out, making amends, or taking steps to show that they value the relationship in a way they may not have before. The emotional impact of your silence also extends beyond the personal. It forces him to consider the dynamics of the relationship and what needs to change for it to thrive. It's no longer just about his feelings, but about understanding yours as well. He starts to think about how his actions have affected you, what he can do to rebuild trust, and how he can ensure that the relationship becomes stronger moving forward. This shift from self-centered thinking to a more balanced perspective is a significant step in emotional maturity. Of course, not everyone will respond to silence in this way. Some people may resist the emotional impact, choosing instead to avoid or suppress their feelings. But for those who are willing to confront the discomfort, the experience can be profoundly transformative. It's in these moments of vulnerability that true growth occurs. Silence in its own unique way creates the conditions for emotional breakthroughs that might not happen in the constant noise of everyday communication. Ultimately, your silence is not just an absence, it's a presence, a powerful unspoken statement that challenges him to confront his emotions, his actions, and his priorities. It's a reminder that relationships are not to be taken for granted and that the absence of communication can sometimes speak louder than words ever could. The emotional impact of your silence serves as a catalyst for self-awareness, appreciation, and potentially reconciliation. When a man starts chasing you after you go silent, one of the most intriguing dynamics that unfolds is his increased willingness to take action. This shift often stems from a combination of self-reflection and the realization of what he stands to lose. Silence creates a vacuum, and in that stillness, he begins to question his role in the relationship and what he can do to win back your attention. This process of introspection and motivation to act highlights a deeper human truth sometimes. It takes losing something or the fear of losing it to appreciate its value fully. Initially, your silence disrupts the rhythm he has grown accustomed to. If communication was previously regular or if he relied on your attention to feel validated, your decision to go silent forces him to reconsider his own behavior. This is not a reaction born out of manipulation. It is the natural consequence of an emotional void. He begins to wonder why you've chosen silence and what it means for your connection. This period of uncertainty can be uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly revealing. It's in these moments that he begins to assess his priorities and recognize how much your presence contributed to his life. The drive to act is often rooted in a combination of curiosity, concern, and the need for clarity. He may begin reaching out, sending messages, or trying to reestablish contact in ways that feel more intentional than before. These efforts can range from casual inquiries to heartfelt attempts to understand what went wrong. He may take steps to show that he's willing to make amends, whether by expressing his feelings more openly, apologizing for past mistakes, or demonstrating a greater commitment to the relationship. These actions reflect a deeper motivation to repair and rebuild what was lost. This newfound willingness to act often stems from the understanding that relationships require effort and that complacency can lead to disconnection. He starts to realize that his previous behavior, whether it was neglect, inconsistency, or taking you for granted, may have contributed to your decision to withdraw. This awareness can be a turning point, motivating him to take responsibility for his actions and make meaningful changes. He may begin to value open communication, express his emotions more freely, or prioritize your needs in ways he hadn't before. In some cases, the drive to act also involves a deeper level of vulnerability. Silence has a way of stripping away pretense and forcing people to confront their emotions. For him, this might mean admitting feelings he had been hesitant to acknowledge or sharing thoughts he previously kept to himself. This vulnerability is not just about winning you back, it's about demonstrating a genuine willingness to grow and improve. It's in these moments of openness that true connection becomes possible, as both parties can engage in a more authentic and meaningful way. Another aspect of his willingness to act is the effort he puts into showing you that he values your presence in his life. This might involve planning thoughtful gestures, making time for deeper conversations, or actively working to address the issues that led to the silence in the first place. These actions are often motivated by a desire to prove that he is capable of change and that the relationship is worth fighting for. It's not about grand gestures or superficial promises. It's about consistent, intentional efforts to show that he understands the importance of the relationship and is willing to do what it takes to nurture it. As he takes these steps, he may also begin to reflect on the lessons learned from your silence. This period of reflection can be incredibly transformative as it forces him to confront his own patterns of behavior and consider how they impact his relationships. He starts to see the value of self-awareness, accountability, and emotional maturity. These lessons extend beyond the immediate situation and can influence how he approaches relationships in the future. Your your silence becomes not just a catalyst for change within the context of your relationship, but also a turning point in his personal growth. It's important to recognize that his willingness to act is not just about his feelings or motivations, it's also a response to the boundaries you've set. Your silence communicates that you value yourself and your emotional well-being enough to step back when necessary. This act of self-respect often inspires a reciprocal response as he begins to see the importance of respecting your boundaries and meeting you at a level that honors both your needs and his. It's in this mutual recognition of value and respect that true reconciliation becomes possible. However, it's also worth noting that not every attempt to act will be successful or lead to the desired outcome. Growth and change take time, and not every relationship can withstand the challenges that silence brings. In some cases, his actions may reveal deeper incompatibilities or a lack of readiness for the kind of commitment required to move forward. These moments, while difficult, are also opportunities for clarity and understanding. They allow both parties to make informed decisions about the future of the relationship and what they truly want. Ultimately, his willingness to act in response to your silence is a testament to the power of boundaries, reflection, and intentionality. It's a reminder that relationships thrive when both individuals are willing to invest in them, and that silence, when used as a tool for self-care and clarity, can lead to profound personal and relational growth.